She picked up the pen. She signed. What Edmund did not know, what nobody in their small Connecticut town of Millbrook knew, was that 6 months later, Cecelia would walk through a door that would stop his heart cold, expose everything he thought he knew about his quiet wife, and make Vivian Cross wish with everything she had that she had chosen a very different man. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Cecelia had grown up in a modest house on the edge of Whitmore Valley, 3 hours north of Hartford. Her father, George Alderton, repaired clocks for a living. He wore the same brown cardigan every winter, drove a car older than most marriages on their street, and said very little. He was kind in the way quiet men are kind, without fuss, without fanfare. When he died 2 years before the divorce, he left Cecelia a small sealed envelope. Inside, in his careful handwriting, was a single line. When the time comes, call Mr. Finch in Ashford. He will explain everything. She tucked the envelope into the back of her wardrobe and forgot about it. There was always something else to do. Edmund's schedule to manage, dinners to organize, a household that ran on her effort and credited itself to no one. The morning after she signed the divorce papers, she found the envelope again. She called the number. Mr. Gerald Finch was 78 years old and had been George Alderton's closest friend for 43 years. George, of course, was Cecilia's father. Mr. Finch did not ask her to come to him. He drove 3 hours to her door, arrived with a leather briefcase and a gentle smile, and sat with her at that same kitchen table where the papers had been signed just hours before. He told her everything. George Alderton, your late father, had never been just a clock repairman. Over 4 decades, he had quietly built Alderton Capital, patient investments, land holdings across 7 states, a private portfolio that grew steadily in the background of his cardigan and old car life. He had used it, year after year, to fund rural schools, women's shelters, community libraries, hospice gardens, all of it done without a single plaque, without a single press mention, just the good done and left behind. Everything now belonged to Cecelia. How much? She whispered. Mr. Finch folded his hands on the table. $3.3 billion, he said, conservatively. The room went completely silent. She looked down at her hands. These hands that had cooked Edmund's dinners, managed his calendar, smiled at his colleagues. These same hands. She did not cry. Something far stronger than tears was moving through her, and it felt, for the first time in a very long time, like the beginning of something. She told no one. Not her son Thomas, 22, and finishing his degree, with his grandfather's steady eyes. Not her sister Patricia, who would have told her husband within the hour. Not her friend Donna, who loved her genuinely, but could not hold a secret longer than 48 hours. She hired a private legal team in Hartford, 4 people with no connection to Edmund or his firm. She spent 2 weeks in careful meetings, learning the full scope of what her father had built and what she was now capable of. Then she went to find a life. She bought a house in the hills outside Millbrook. Stone walls, a wide porch, a garden that was entirely, unapologetically hers. She planted things. She read books she had been meaning to read for 10 years. She let herself, slowly and deliberately, remember who she was before she became Edmund Hartwell's wife. It was through one of the Trust's community grants that she met Oliver Crane. Oliver was 51, an architect who had spent 20 years designing the buildings nobody photographed, but everybody needed. Reading rooms, community halls, hospice gardens in towns the rest of the world had stopped paying attention to. He He was serious about his work. He was not particularly serious about very much else. He arrived at Cecelia's house one Wednesday morning to discuss a new reading room project and found her on the porch in a paint-stained shirt, having a firm one-sided argument with a climbing rose that was growing in completely the wrong direction. He stood at the gate and watched for a moment. "They never listen," he said. She turned, hair loose, a pencil behind her ear. She looked at him directly, with nothing performed about it. "Oliver Crane?" she said. "Cecelia Alderton," he said back. They shook hands. Neither of them let go quite as quickly as the situation required. They worked together for 3 months. He came twice a week. They argued about windows and light and what a room needed to feel like to make someone want to stay. She had strong opinions, precise, detailed, earned. He disagreed with her on 4 separate points. They resolved every single one into something better than either of them had started with. By the 2nd month, he was staying for dinner. By the 3rd, they were talking long after the plates were cleared, the evening gone full dark outside. He made her feel, in the simple, unremarkable moments of an ordinary Wednesday night, like someone genuinely worth being in a room with. Edmund had not kissed her in 5 years, not once, not on a birthday, not on a holiday, not on a single evening when she had dressed carefully and quietly hoped. She had grown so used to being invisible that she had nearly convinced herself warmth was something that happened to other people. One evening in November, Oliver stopped at the door just before leaving. He turned back. He looked at her in the warm hallway light. "I'd like to take you to dinner," he said quietly. "A real one, not a working dinner. One where I'm not looking at blueprints." "What will you be looking at instead?" she asked. "You," he said simply. She was quiet for a moment. Then, Saturday, 7 o'clock. He nodded once and walked out into the cold night. She closed the door and stood against it, her hand pressed flat against her chest, feeling something she had not felt in so long she had almost convinced herself it was gone. Saturday came. He arrived in a dark coat and brought her a single white lily. Not roses. He had noticed she had a complicated relationship with roses. And said nothing about it, just handed it over and waited. They went to a small Italian restaurant. Candlelight.